Welcoming you to a life of awareness, the Presence Project is excited for you to join us for today's podcast with your host, Paul Kerzner.
Hello and welcome to episode 35 of Are You Being Present? My name is Paul Kerzner. I want to welcome you to the present moment. I want to welcome you to the here and now. And I want to thank you wholeheartedly, sincerely, and deeply for joining me in this wonderful and amazing present moment. The title and topic for today's podcast is Stop Trying to Control the Present Moment. I know that's a little lengthy, but it's a good statement. It's a good topic. It's something that I've wanted to talk about for a while, is control. And I felt like this was the time, this was the moment. It keeps on showing up in clinic. It keeps on showing up in my life. And I wanted to bring it to the forefront because a question that I ask a lot of people that come for my help is, why are you trying to control the present moment? And, it's such a poignant question and it's such an important topic that I wanted to address it. I wanted to speak on it. And I wanted to share it with the world. And, I do hope that you guys find it to be as important as I do. So without any further introductions, here's podcast number 35. Enjoy. But let's talk about control. It's a popular topic for everyone because I believe that human beings innately have a desire to control people, places, and things. We love to control environments. We love to exert control over our lives, over our bodies. And, it's a misnomer to believe that we can control anything. And really, the only thing that is so hyper-focused on control is our ego. And it likes it because it sets us up for oftentimes disappointment because we can't really control anything. If you think about it, you can't even really control your body. You can eat all the right foods and work out all the time, and something can still go wrong. And it's interesting because, you can lead your whole life very clean and lean and still end up with an ailment, which is interesting and I can imagine extremely frustrating. For myself, I feel like I've taken really good care of my body, and yet I have lower back pain. I have some hip issues. Just stuff is popping up. And, at 38 years old, I didn't think that I'd be considering, or have to deal with these ailments. But you just have to kind of accept them, because acceptance is the opposite to control. So I wanted to really spend some time explaining how control negatively impacts your ability to be present. And this one should really be an obvious one, so I really won't have to go too deep. But, the minute that you start exerting some level of control on whatever it is that you feel like you need to, it takes you out of the present moment because you get so hyper-focused on whatever it is that you're trying to manipulate that you start, first of all, you miss out on all the other things that are happening in that moment. It's almost like you have blinders on. And the blinders prevent you from seeing all the other amazing possibilities and opportunities in that present moment because you just want to be solely focused on this one instance that you think that you can control. It's just not like that, and really it's a complication. So when you approach a situation that you feel like you can control, what happens is that you start comparing that instance, that person, place, or thing towards something that took place in the past. And then you shoot yourself forward into the future because what you're doing is your level of control is that you're trying to create a future happenstance that hasn't taken place yet. And again, like this is just setting yourself up for frustration because oftentimes, with control, we exert a level of expectation and life rarely matches up to whatever it is that we expect it should or it could. And it sets a loop up where we get upset about that, and then we have to start all over again because then we want to control something else. And it doesn't work out the way we think it should or it could, and it starts over and over again. So the reminder here for you, but for everyone, is stop trying to control things. Stop trying to control people. You have to have a certain level of allowance and acceptance. And it takes, in the beginning at least, an awakening. You need to take a step back and look at your life and look at where you're trying to control things and how it's making you feel. Because this is a really important topic here. Like, what makes you think that you can level control onto a person, onto a place, onto a thing? I mean, you can hope for it. Certainly, you can hope. And that's the difference between, expectation and an allowance, really. But really it's expectation versus intention. Because expectation is a very closed off way of navigating the world and creating situations for yourself. Expectation is that, you have some hope that things will turn out the way you want them to, but you're more willing to accept the end product and navigate and adapt and change. And so when you do that, it feels a lot better. It's a lot easier to live your life than having expectations and control. And, now would be a good time to talk a little bit about what's going on in my life that I feel like I might be trying to control a little bit. So for those of you who don't know, I recently adopted a puppy. And it happened very quickly. I've always wanted a dog. Ideally, it would have been an older dog. But somehow the universe felt that it was a good idea for me to have a very young puppy. His name is Toby. Toby is 3 months old. And Toby is teaching me a lot in a very short amount of time, what it's all about to be responsible for another being. Now, I'm not claiming to have any idea what it's like to be a parent, but I could tell you that having a puppy is exhausting. It's challenging, but it's amazing at the same time. And it's really a great reflection point because he can't be controlled. It's impossible. This guy, I'm training him, but really, I can only hope that he's going to pee and poop outside. And I mean, for the most part, we're doing pretty well, but again, it's just like expectation versus intention. It's controlling versus allowance. Yes, every now and again he's going to have a mistake, and it gets a little frustrating after a while. But you get used to it. You do, and at the end of the day, he really is my greatest teacher, and I don't want to control him. I would love for him to be, a little bit more respectful maybe, but he doesn't see it like that. He's just a puppy. And again, like, life loves to give us challenges. It loves to push our buttons. It loves to give us these reflection points so we can see where we're at in our own development. And it would be ridiculous for me to think that at this point I can control him. I have started training him, but you really can't train a baby. It just takes time. Will I bring him to obedience school or get a dog trainer within a few months? Yes, I will. But even then, it's going to take time, and it is going to continue to be a reflection point for me to see how I'm reacting when he behaves in a way that's pure to him, like he's just living his truth. He just happens to be living his truth, in my house, which is now our house. And, I would prefer he use the bathroom outside, but, each time he does it, it's this reminder for me. And it's, I can't control him. I can't control my environment. I like living in a very clean house, and it will be as clean as possible. But there's going to be moments where it might not be as clean as I would like. And that's okay. And I'm not telling people to necessarily go out and adopt a puppy or have a child. Those are definitely challenges that should be and opportunities that should be well thought out and planned. And truth be told, I've wanted a dog for a while. I would like to train him to come and stay with me in my clinic. I think he'd be a great addition. But right now he's teaching me what it's like to be a little out of control and to share my space, which I am very thankful for completely. And I do have intention. My intention is to continue to work with him and to learn from each other and to grow with each other. And in a future podcast, I might talk about, puppies for presence, and we can kind of explore how he's teaching me how to be more present. Because every moment that guy is in the present moment. There's not a moment where he's thinking about the past or the future. He doesn't have to. And that is beautiful. But getting back to the topic for today, which is controlling, and really what I'd like to title this podcast is Stop Trying to Control the Present Moment. Because we all need to be told that. And sometimes we need to be told that over and over again. So a good question to ask ourselves is like, am I trying to control this? Am I trying to control this moment? And why am I trying to control this moment? And how's this moment making me feel? Because if we're present, we're able to see how we're behaving, how we're reacting, how what we're doing, and how it's all playing out. So this is a wonderful moment for all of us to kind of look at control and think about it and understand how it might be inhibiting our ability to be present. It is inhibiting our ability to be present. So the goal is, if you can look at the situations and the challenges that are existing in your life, first think about, am I trying to control this situation? But secondly, like, how can I get into more of a flow state, a state of acceptance and allowance, so that I don't have to create more self-inflicted suffering? Because ultimately, like, control and expectation lead to that type of suffering over and over and over again. And yes, it might be an inherent desire for all of us as human beings to control things, but it doesn't mean that we have to actually do that. It could be instinctual, but we can actually stop that. And so my message to you, and really my message to myself, is that why control? What gives us the idea that control is going to make our lives any better? And how can we change this behavior so that we don't have to continually set ourselves up for frustration? Because that's really the end product, is more and more frustration, because control is an illusion. It is not real. And I want to say that again, because it's very profound when you can actually accept this truth that control is an illusion. It is not real. You cannot control anyone or anything. You can hope, and I definitely suggest that you have hope and you use intention and you navigate the world in presence. But, for this moment, please think about all the things that you're trying to control and the outcomes that it's providing for you. Because I can guarantee you that, a lot of the problems that you perceive in your life, as well as myself, have some level of control inside of it that can be alleviated in a moment's notice if we can kind of shift ourselves into the present moment and into a state of acceptance, allowance, peace, and stillness. And if you're unsure if you're trying to control things, or you're just unsure of things in general, the best way to take a better look at your reality is to start meditating. And because when you start meditating, you become more observant of your thoughts. And when you start looking at your thoughts, you can start seeing how they're interacting within your life. Are you holding any resentment? Are you upset about anything? Are you angry? What's going on with you? And then, we can take it to the next step and wrap control around into this and say, well, what is it that I'm trying to do here? Am I trying to control this situation, this person, this place, this thing? And why am I trying to do this? Because these are the kind of questions, these are the kind of interactions that we need to start having with ourselves so that we better understand, who we are, how we are, and where we are. Because without that, then we kind of lose ourselves and we slip out of the present moment. We slip into the past or to the future, and that's never a good place or a situation for any of us to be in. So why are you trying to control the present moment? Why are you trying to control this person, place, or thing? Don't you see, can't you understand that it's beyond you? It isn't you. You don't need to do that. You need to let go. And I understand that in the beginning it's very difficult to let go because you don't want to be hurt. You don't want this to repeat itself. You don't want more problems. But you're creating those situations by trying to control them. So learn to let go. Give yourself permission to let go. Give yourself permission to be easy, to be accepting. Because at the end of the day, you are who you are. And, the less control that you exhibit, the easier your life's going to be. And if you really think about it, why? What makes you think that you need to exert any control over anything? Because it's not real. And I know that this might come as a little bit of an affront to some people because how's anything going to get done? How am I going to accomplish this? How am I going to get this person to do this? There are a million different ways to accomplish your goals without controlling them. Okay? Life is going to do what it wants to do anyway. And the more of a level of acceptance that you exhibit and enter into a flow state where you're okay with whatever happens and you're willing to adapt because you understand that everything's changing, the easier your life is going to be. And that is a truth. And I'm not here to tell you that what you're doing is wrong. I'm here to kind of shed some light on it and make it more obvious to you so that it's easier for you to handle. It's easier for you to let go of. Because at the end, look, when your head hits the pillow at the end of the day, if you are fully present, you're making good decisions, you're seeing things clearly, it's a lot easier to go to bed. Now, if you're going through your day controlling things, getting angry, getting frustrated, being upset, ruminating, holding on to the past, worrying about the future, it becomes very difficult to get to bed at night because that mind and that ego are running full steam. And that's why, sleep medications are so popular. It's such an epidemic. Insomnia is such an epidemic. I mean, I treat it a lot in clinic, but I would love for you to treat your insomnia with presence. And that's a whole nother podcast, so I won't get into that. But, if you can reduce your level of control, your incessant need to control things, I promise you that it'll get a lot easier to fall asleep at the end of the day because you'll have a lot less confrontation and conflict. Things will be softer and easier. I hope that this was a helpful podcast for many of you. I try to talk a little bit about myself and the things that I'm seeing in clinic and working with people. And, control is such a major issue. It's such a major and popular topic. And sometimes it takes a third party to sit in front of us and ask, well, why are you doing this? What's going on? Because we get so wrapped up in our realities and we actually, some of us become unconscious to our own behaviors that we need other people to question, to act as mirrors, to be our reflection points. So I'm going to ask you this question again because I'd like to end this podcast with it. It's such a poignant question, but why are you trying to control the present moment? And maybe you should sit down and journal that, answer that question. Take some time to think about it in the morning or in the evening. It's so important. Stop trying to control the present moment. Stop trying to control people, places, and things. Just allow life to flow. Accept, allow, and everything will be okay.
Thank you for listening to the Are You Being Present podcast, brought to you by the Presence Projects. Remember, you have a choice. Choose to be present.